You've probably seen the movie Black Hawk Down. It's an incredible story. But what really happened on October 3rd, 1993 in Mogadishu? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the movie version and deconstruct the actual battle, piece by piece, to understand how a quick raid went so horribly wrong and ended up changing modern military history. So picture this. It's the afternoon of October 3rd, 1993. A highly elite team of U.S. Army Rangers and Delta Force operators are gearing up. Their mission? To drop into the heart of Mogadishu, Somalia, and snatch two top lieutenants of a very powerful warlord. The whole thing was supposed to be fast, in and out in under an hour. Simple as that. But as you can guess, it wasn't simple at all. That 1-hour mission completely unraveled, spiraling into a brutal 18-hour fight for their lives. I mean, we're talking about one of the most intense urban firefights for American troops since the Vietnam War, and it would send shockwaves that we'd feel for decades. So that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth did a humanitarian mission end up in all-out war on the streets of Mogadishu? To really get what happened in the battle, you have to understand the long, complicated road that led everyone there in the first place. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. It all kicks off in 1991. Somalia's government collapses, plunging the country into a vicious civil war. This leads to a catastrophic famine, so the world steps in. By the end of '92, the U.S. is leading Operation Restore Hope, basically trying to make sure food aid gets to starving people. But just a few months later, the mission changes. And this, right here, is where the real trouble begins. And this is the absolute key. You see, the first UN mission was just about aid, feeding people. Simple. But the next phase, UNOSOM 2, was way more ambitious and, frankly, more aggressive. The new goal was nation building, to create a brand new democratic state. And that meant the UN forces were suddenly picking a fight with the local warlords who were all scrambling for power. To the UN, this was progress. But to a lot of Somalis, it looked like a foreign army was taking sides in their civil war. Yeah, this new mission did not go over well. A powerful warlord, Mohamed Farrah Aidid, was a master at propaganda. He framed himself as a nationalist, a hero resisting foreign invaders. And he used this growing anger and images just like this one to paint the UN and US forces not as peacekeepers but as occupiers. You could just feel the tension ratcheting up every single day. And then came the event that pushed everything over the edge. Bloody Monday. On July 12th, U.S. helicopters acting on intel attacked a house. The UN said it was a command center for Aidid, but Somalis and even groups like Human Rights Watch said it was a peaceful meeting of clan elders, these incredibly respected figures in Somali society. The fallout from this was immediate, and it was absolutely disastrous. 73. That's the number of people Aidid's faction, the SNA, said were killed in that raid. Attacking these elders was it was an unforgivable insult in that culture. And it completely galvanized the opposition. Suddenly, even people who couldn't stand Aidid were now thinking, okay, the UN and the US are the real enemy here. That raid lit a fuse. Right after Bloody Monday, Aidid declared open season, specifically on American soldiers. In August, a bomb killed 4 of them. That got President Clinton's attention, and he sent in the elite Task Force Ranger with one mission: capture Aidid. But the SNA hit back, and just a week before our story begins, they shot down their first Black Hawk. The stage was absolutely set for a major showdown. Which brings us right back to that afternoon on October 3rd. Tensions are at a boiling point, and then Task Force Ranger gets a tip. 2 of Aidid's top guys are in a building near the Bakara market. This is their chance. The mission is a go. And this map just shows you what they were up against. This isn't some open field. It's a dense, twisting urban maze. The Bakara market was Aidid's stronghold, a place the U.S. military literally called the Black Sea. Every single street, every alleyway was hostile territory. On paper, the plan looked solid, you know? It was all about speed and surprise. Helicopters drop the guys in, they grab the targets, and a convoy of Humvees scoops everyone up. But here's the thing. Aidid's militia had been studying the Americans. Their plan wasn't just to fight. It was to take away the Americans' biggest advantage, their air power. They were going to shoot down the helicopters and trap the soldiers inside the city. At 4:20 p.m., their plan works. A rocket-propelled grenade, an RPG, slams into the tail of the Black Hawk with the call sign Super 61. It starts spinning out of control and crashes deep inside the city. And in that single moment, the entire mission changes. It's no longer about capture, it's about rescue. So with that first chopper down, the whole focus for Task Force Ranger flips. Now it's all about getting to their men. But the SNA was ready for this. Their fighters flooded the streets, setting up roadblocks, sealing off the area. They were turning the city into a kill zone. While the soldiers on the ground are fighting tooth and nail to get to that first crash site, other Blackhawks are circling overhead trying to provide cover fire. This right here is the crew of Super 64, piloted by Michael Durant. Their job was to protect the guys on the ground. Then the absolute unthinkable happens again. Just 20 minutes after the first crash, another RPG finds its target, and Super 64 goes down. The crash site is overrun almost immediately. Two Delta Force snipers, Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart, volunteered to be dropped in to defend a crew. It was an act of incredible bravery. They held off the militia as long as they could before they were killed. The pilot, Michael Durant, was pulled from the wreckage alive, but he was taken hostage. So now the situation is a complete nightmare. You've got nearly 100 American soldiers trapped in the city at two different crash sites. A massive last-ditch rescue convoy is scrambled together. We're talking U.S. troops, Malaysian armored vehicles, and Pakistani tanks, a truly multinational force. They had to fight for 9 straight hours through barricades and nonstop ambushes just to reach their surrounded comrades. All through the night, the trapped Rangers and Delta operators are in the fight of their lives. And these weren't just random gunmen they were up against. The SNA fighters knew their city. They used the terrain, their own neighborhoods, perfectly. When the rescue convoy finally breaks through, there isn't enough room in the vehicles for everyone. So some of the soldiers had to run on foot, under fire, all the way back to the base, a desperate retreat that became known as the Mogadishu Mile. By the time the sun came up on October 4th, the battle was finally over. But its impact was just getting started, not just in Somalia, but thousands of miles away in Washington, D.C. The human cost was just devastating. 18 American soldiers were killed, 73 wounded. It was the deadliest single day for the U.S. military in decades. But look at the Somali losses. The numbers are all over the place, but we're talking about hundreds of militia fighters and civilians killed, and many, many more wounded. Just an immense tragedy on all sides. Back in the United States, the political fallout was immediate and intense. Shocking images of a dead American soldier being dragged through the streets of Mogadishu were all over the news, and the American public was outraged. Within days, the hunt for Aidid was officially called off. And within 6 months, every single U.S. soldier was out of Somalia. And that really gets to the battle's most lasting legacy, something that came to be known as the Somalia Syndrome. For the next decade, the memory of what happened in Mogadishu made Washington incredibly hesitant to send American troops into harm's way, especially for things like humanitarian aid or nation building. It had a profound effect on American foreign policy. And all of this leaves us with a really tough question, one that's just as relevant today as it was back in 1993. The mission in Somalia began with the best intentions to save starving people, but it ended in a horrific urban battle that made America shy away from helping in other crises. It forces us all to ask, where do you draw the line between helping and fighting? And is that a line we can ever really see clearly before it's too late?